all these links on the left-hand side start to pull people out of Zillow and out of Trulia and into where we want them to go so that they stay focused on your property. Again, all the social media buttons, real important. Craigslist, it's still amazing to me how many people use Craigslist, but again, it's the kind of do-it-yourselfer mentality. A lot of these people don't work with real estate agents or have had a bad experience in the past, so they're doing some things themselves. Craigslist, we do the same thing. We put some marketing together that has specific links that generate interest back to us. We do use e-flyers to send around to the broker community, to any potential buyer, again with all these live links that you see here above the QR code. All these things are live landing pages and live links, again, right back to me. Mobile, again, very important with the power of tablets and smartphones out there. We make sure and use QR codes on any mailers that we send out, and postcards and letters that market a specific property. Any of those things can be scanned and send someone directly to a mobile version of a website. Social media is very important, as you know. Facebook, the power of Facebook's undeniable. 1 billion users is undeniable, so with the kind of specific marketing that we can do, we make sure to include that into our plan. Twitter, I'm hoping more and more that real estate brokers will become involved with Twitter. It's a nice way to send out notice when something is new to the market, is by doing some things in Twitter. I'm not seeing as much from buyers there, but we do some things on Twitter. YouTube, we create marketing videos. I'm still on the fence a little bit about YouTube. YouTube is a pretty powerful site that once someone gets into YouTube, YouTube does a fantastic job of getting a consumer out watching some cute dog or cat video or some other crazy thing, and doesn't keep someone there specifically to look at real estate. So it's something that we use. It's not something that we push though, but if someone is interested in looking at a video, we certainly have those available. All of this stuff on the internet leads back to some pretty interesting data. What I like about the internet and the system that we use, everything is very trackable, so we can see just how many times things are getting clicked, things are getting clicked through, and all this can come back to you every Monday to give you good information. The next slice of the pie to be aware of is relocation. We're affiliated with leading real estate companies of the world, which is the largest network in the world of locally owned real estate companies. It's pretty unlikely that for your type of property this is where a buyer will come from, but it is something to be aware of, and something that to make sure that we still are addressing. This little statistic here, last year 28% of the relocation transactions were closed through this leading real estate companies of the world. We do a handful of business through them, generally not in the resort type market. The next slice of the pie to understand is the MLS. The MLS accounts for 12% of real estate transactions that get closed, where real estate agents fail to see the value, or I sometimes find that other real estate agents and brokers don't quite understand the benefit of the MLS. If you look at some of these property listings on the left-hand side, this is not atypical of how a broker potentially could market a property. A pretty poor photo and not much information. If you look on the right-hand side, what I like to do is not only have great photos like we've talked about, but also a very detailed description of not only the property itself, but also all of the benefits for the buyer, and then also anything that we can do to put in there, any information that we can give, room sizes, interior features, exterior features, what appliances convey, all of those different types of things. You never know what one buyer is going to find important for them. And the important thing to understand about the MLS is not only do buyers see this information as other internet websites pull data from the MLS, but a good real estate agent can take a property listing, maybe not have even been out to the property yet, but with good information can almost begin to work a buyer and look at something and begin to sell it. They're much more inclined to put this kind of listing on the right hand side into their mix for showings because they have some information to work from. So it's very important for us to make sure that the MLS has great photographs and as much information in there as we can. Next slice of the pie that we have to be aware of is the company name. 11% of real estate transactions come from what an individual company does or who that individual company is. Pelican Real Estate is the largest locally owned real estate company that stretches all across the panhandle of Northwest Florida. We've been around since 1996 and have a really solid reputation as far as handling resort real estate. Of course, really we grew up on 30A, so we still have a lot of agents and a large database there of people who recognize us as a company. Plenty of times it's time for someone to look for a place to retire, have a second home or an investment, and before they go anywhere they just walk into one of our offices or call one of our agents. The next slice of the pie to understand, this number is going down and continues to go down. Print media advertising now accounts for only about 7% of where real estate transactions come from, someone picking up a real estate book or a newspaper, something like that. As Pelican Real Estate's top agent, I get a lot of spin-off from where Pelican spends money. I spend more money on the internet, with pay-per-click kind of things, Facebook advertising, than I do on print media advertising, but I get some nice spin-off from my listing inventory because of all these places that Pelican Real Estate participates. Still do a lot in the news. We still do a lot with billboards. We still do a lot with some of the magazines around, and my listings begin to show up there more and more and more and more. The last slice of the pie to be aware of where one of these potential buyers can come from who will pay you the most money comes from open houses. Open houses only account for about 4% of the closed transactions in real estate. It's generally a pretty antiquated strategy. Maybe 30-40 years ago, real estate was open Sundays from 1 to 4 after church. People just knew that was a good time to go and look at real estate. With the internet today and such a variety of schedules of people, we know that people are looking at real estate 24 hours a day. So making sure that we have a really strong presence on the internet is important. However, if we create an open house event and invite the right group of people and the right group of brokers, it can be a positive thing to get more bodies through. The problem generally when we're talking about resort real estate is that we've got to pick a time when we've got the most amount of people in town, which generally for you means that your property is rented, so it's something we have to work through. The better brokers out there will attend some open houses if they do have a customer where it may fit. I'm generally a little disappointed in the participation aspect of that. Again, it is a small part of the pie, but it is something that we can get involved with. So if you look at this one more time, you see that we try to have a strategy and focus for all of these slices of the pie to make sure we're finding a buyer that is willing to pay you the most money for your property, especially with big focus on the larger slices of pie. A little bit about how value is determined. We all understand that value is determined by what a qualified, willing, and able buyer will pay for a property today. We also understand that real estate agents don't ever determine what a buyer is going to buy, but they do determine what buyers are going to see. A little bit about real estate brokerage fees. I don't really believe that we need an exorbitant or large brokerage fee to get someone inspired, another broker inspired to sell. The good brokers are out there showing real estate as long as the brokerage fee is somewhat fair to the marketplace. I don't believe in big selling bonuses or anything like that. I think you're better off in a day and age where sometimes buyers know the market even better than some of the agents, of having something properly positioned with great photographs, great marketing, and good pricing. There's a dirty little secret going on, dirty little trend on 30A especially, of listing brokers keeping more than 50% of the real estate fee. So if we have a 6% fee, it's not uncommon to see an agent offer out 2.8 or 2.6% to a cooperating broker. If we have a 5% fee, it's not unusual to see a broker offer out 2.4 or 2.3%, trying to keep a little more as a listing agent. This is something I don't really believe in. I have a pretty large database and can reach out to a lot of buyers, but there's no way I can compete with the rest of every single other agent. They all have buyers out there too, and I want them just as inspired to be showing the real estate as I am. So we split our fee fairly. We split it 50%. We offer it out 50% to other real estate companies, and really think that helps our sellers more than this idea of offering out less. A little bit about buyer's market and seller's market. You may be aware 30A has been pretty strong here the last 12 months or so. Things have tilted back in favor of sellers. Inventory levels are lower. We've had a little blip in the radar in the last 5 weeks or so as interest rates have spiked, but generally speaking, things have tilted back a little bit towards sellers. They're easing off somewhat as inventory levels are strengthening again as we stabilize, where things are probably tilting a little bit back more to even, but I would still say that we're tilted a little to the side of the seller's market, which is good for you. Speaking about pricing, always, and this is the art of the whole thing, very critical that once we can establish a range of what we think the true value is, that we're priced within a pretty reasonable range of that value. If we price too high, of course, away from that value, then we end up doing a few things. We hurt you guys or the subject property by pricing too far away from the value and actually making other real estate look bigger. If you price too high, you're starting to compete with either things that are closer to the water or larger or newer, and you end up getting buyers looking at different real estate and make other real estate look better. We have seen some appreciation. We are at a point, as I mentioned to Dr. Cranwell, that we can price up a little bit. We are trending up a little bit. So pricing, 8%, even potentially 10% over some of the recent data won't be unreasonable. We do have people reaching for property when they find one that they like. The stronger our marketing, the better our staging. If you have strong, consistent rental income that we can advertise, all of those things can make for cleaner, stronger, better offers out of the consumer. A couple last slides, and this is also pretty important. Any buyer or broker that is out there right now that's actively in the market looking for something knows the existing inventory very well. When a new property comes to the market, it goes in one of two buckets in their minds. They're either excited about it and want more information and want to see it, or they say, oh, no thanks, they rule it out for some reason. And so this is very, very typical of what happens as a new listing comes to market. The first 45, maybe 60 days in the resort market, you have a really, really big swell in the amount of showings. If for some reason it's not under contract in the first 60 days, then showing activity eases off as all the buyers that were already out there in the buyer pool have already gotten the information and already made plans to look at it. Doesn't mean that contracts don't get written the later you go in the process. It just means that oftentimes your best chance for finding that one buyer who is willing to pay you the most happens pretty early in the process. Talking about market trend just a little bit. Again, we are, and I will send you an email a little bit later with specific numbers, but we are trending up. We can test the market a little bit high even as we move into the off season. The experienced buyer actually likes to look at and close real estate in the off season so that they can make preparations to use it come the season next year. So good time to be on the market. And I'll let you read this as a little letter from Tony Garcia. We sold his property in Seacrest Beach some time ago. And again, thank you very much. Sorry it took so long to get this over to you. I know we had problems with the formatting, but appreciate again that you reached out to me to give us a chance to show us what we could do for you. Again, give me a call or shoot me an email with any specific questions. I know I went through a lot of this pretty fast. Usually This is live and a little more interactive.